Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the My Dad Life podcast. In this episode, I get to introduce to you a really great friend of mine who actually started out as a training client. His name's Brian Rogers, and him and his wife started working with me almost 3 years ago now. And since then, we've become really good friends. And Brian is an awesome dad, super successful personally and professionally. And so it was really important for me to get a chance to sit down and talk with him specifically about being a dad and having a family and raising kids. So we talk about all the things like the importance of fitness and the importance of time to get centered and allow you to be more present in your life. We talk about his relationship with God, his relationship with his faith, and how that informs how he raises his kids, and how he goes about introducing faith to his children. We also talk about kind of the legacy he wants to leave for his kids and just tons of great stuff. So I hope you guys really enjoy this interview. Brian is one of those awesome, kick-ass people that I think everyone should know and learn from. And so this is an opportunity for me to share that with you. Before we get into the interview, two things I want to make sure and tell you. One, my plan was to film this interview, which I thought I was doing, but about 30 minutes in, I guess I ran out of memory on my phone or something happened, but the recording stopped. So what you're going to see is actually just a photo with the audio playing in the background. I'm sorry about that. It really bothers me, but I feel like the content's great, that it will carry itself. The conversation is that good. And while I could reschedule the interview, it just wouldn't be as authentic or genuine trying to reproduce it just to capture the video. We'll have Brian back on to catch up and follow up, and we'll get the video right then. But I feel like I really need to get this out and share it with you guys as soon as possible. So I apologize for that. But when it's a one-man show producing this stuff, sometimes things happen. And then second is, there are points in the interview where we stop and get interrupted. But I feel like I could have edited those parts out, but I felt like it was important to keep them because it really speaks to what my dad life's all about, which is showing dads being dads and dads living. And so, just because a couple dads sit down to record a podcast or film a podcast doesn't mean their families stop living. Doesn't mean that you can't stop supporting them and providing what they need. So Cal, my son, my wife put him in the room with us while she was finishing getting ready and whatnot, because she was going out with her mom and taking Cal with her. So she set Cal in the room and he farted really loud. I think it's on the audio, but it made me, Brian, laugh, and that interrupted us. And then we said bye to him when my wife and Cal left, so that kind of interrupted us for a bit there. But I felt like it was important to leave those in because that's what being a dad's like. And then there's actually an awesome part at the end of the interview where Brian is actually kind of on call to go pick up some children, and our recording time that we scheduled, we ran way over it because we were talking so much. And his wife was trying to get in touch with him. He didn't have his phone on, and she was calling me, and then finally I realized that it was Mary that was calling me. So he had to get up and take the phone call, and she wanted to just double check that it was going to be okay, that he was going to make it to pick him up in time. So yeah, I felt like it was important to leave that stuff in because that's what being a dad's really like, and it's just real and authentic rather than editing it out and trying to make it more seamless. I left it in, so I hope you guys are okay with that. I hope you guys can forgive me about the no video portion, but I think it's a really great interview. It's really worth listening to, and if you guys have any comments, feedback, I'd love to hear it. If you enjoy the video, please share it, subscribe to the channel, get it into the hands of other dads. So without further ado, here is Brian Rogers. So for the purpose of the interview, and I already know who you are, tell people who may be listening, what's your name, where you come from, what you do for work, are you married, how many kids you have, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm Brian Rogers. I'm actually from this area. I grew up in Webb City. Went to school there the entire time. My family is typically from around this area, Carthage kind of area, I'm married. Been married for 25 years now.
Thanks.
Yeah, long time. We actually dated 4 years before that, so
a quarter of a century.
Yeah, we've been together a long time. We have 4 kids that range from 18 down to 12.
So that means you're busy.
Yes. Very busy. Our oldest is in college. He's doing dual credit college, high school right now. He'll finish that up, and then we have the youngest one in middle school. So kind of a nice little range there.
That's awesome. So, just more about your story. Tell us about, it sounds weird, but where do your kids come from? You guys have a different parenthood story than
true.
everybody else. So
It's true.
you don't have to get super specific if you want to, but just kind of tell us how maybe your guys' journey to parenthood.
Okay. Well, early on, Mary and I, in our dating life, we always talked about and knew that we were just going to adopt children. We actually never planned on having any biological children. We just weren't against it, or it wasn't a big deal to us. We just knew that there were plenty of children in the world who needed parents, and we were willing to do that. But it was like 10 years, really, before that came along. We were married for 10 years before that happened. And in that time, we had decided to try to start having kids, and there were just lots of issues with that. It didn't pan out. So our first adoption occurred in 1999. It was Grayson. He was born in Taiwan.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
The ninja.
Yes. And he's still jumping around. Grayson came home in 99. And then a couple years later, we started the adoption process again and brought home our second son, but he was from Haiti. And he was this little bitty, the very first picture we had of him, he looked like a little bird. He was so thin because he was near death when he was brought into the orphanage. And he was just like, not even bigger than that.
Wow.
And the skin was just hanging off his bones.
Just from malnourishment?
Yeah, malnourishment.
Wow.
His birth mother had died, and his grandmother, couldn't feed him. So eventually brought him into the orphanage, and they had to feed him with an eyedropper for the first few weeks that he was in.
Oh my goodness.
In there because he couldn't even suck really. So, but yeah, now he's nice and tall.
That's awesome.
Doing well. And then our third adoption occurred 2 years after that, kind of just like we planned it. And that our daughter, we brought her home from Haiti as well. And she got stuck in the system in Haiti because Aristide was overthrown during that time. And our paperwork was literally sitting in the embassy on someone's desk, but all the staff had been asked to leave the country.
Wow.
So we just waited, The first commercial flights that were available, I believe I went that very first week and just flew in. I was in there less than 24 hours. Flew in, picked her up, got everything taken care of, and came back home.
Dang.
So
that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Oh,
so
yeah, it's crazy.
Were you guys panicking a little bit?
Yeah, we were. Because during that time, there was fighting going on and stuff, and they were having demonstrations, burning tires in the street kind of thing. Food wasn't getting in, that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, there was someone that Mary used to be on the board of the mission, and one of the wives had flown down to see their prospective daughter and got stuck there the entire time. So we were getting reports out of there what was going on.
Wow.
So
that's pretty brave, man.
Yeah,
I mean, to get on a commercial flight, you're not going down there with a team.
Well, the U.S. Marines were down there. They had come in at the end when the flight started back, but they were still fighting going on, But the orphanage was like a mile and a half through a sugarcane field from the airport. So we joked, but I was serious, that if we got there and there was trouble, all I had to do was just book it through that sugarcane field and I'd be all right. So, a white dude running through a sugarcane field in Haiti is not going to be noticed. But
not conspicuous.
Yeah, anyway, so we got her home in March of 2004. And then, lo and behold, in July, along came number 4.
The surprise.
The biological weapon. He just, we had no idea.
It's a roller coaster ride.
It was.
That's
the
awesome.
Next 18 months after that was just a fog.
So, question, this actually goes back to the very first person I interviewed was Coach Schultz, Tobin.
Uh-huh.
Him and his wife, you guys are acquaintances. He talked to me about how his wife Shannon knew also that adoption was going to be her kind of path to motherhood and her path to parenthood, which is it's just so different. I mean, like to have that calling so early on in your life, and she had it from the time she was like a young girl. So my question, and that wasn't I if I remember right, that wasn't so much Tobin. Tobin didn't have so much of an opinion as far either way, but she really brought that, and he supported that. Was that something you both kind of always felt growing up? I know Mary comes from a family that did a lot of fostering and adoption. She comes from a very blended family. You come from more of the traditional, 4 boys, and so how did you guys? Whose main pull or push was it on that end?
Well, it probably Mary's. I mean, it was more on her heart than mine. It's not that it wasn't on my heart. It's just that it's one of those things I hadn't thought a whole lot about. I had thought about it off and on. I was aware of people in the school that had been adopted, and so it wasn't completely foreign. But really, until we were in a relationship that we knew that we wanted to start a family, eventually did we start really talking about that. I think this is part of a natural progression of dating and where we're going with this kind of stuff. And so we just talked about it, and actually, even in college we talked about it a lot because we just saw really worldwide a need for that. But even more than that, we just, I don't know, we really love kids. And so we don't want to sound like we're trying to rescue anybody or anything like that, because it's not a rescue. We were wanting to create a family, and for us, it was what we felt God was calling us to do. We felt that was the path that He was calling for us, and it's just like I think any couple who decides to start a family, that's just the way we chose.
Have you guys had to combat any? Because in at least in the U.S., most of the time, or the assumption is, if somebody's adopting children, it was because they weren't able to biologically have their own. And not that brings a negative connotation, but it's just a different conversation when people ask you about your children. And the Schultz talked about how they wanted people to know, like, no, we chose, like, these were our children. We chose, these are our children. They weren't second choice, or they weren't, they weren't, you know what I mean? So I mean, you guys have 3 of them, and growing up in a small town, it's not small town, but it has kind of that feel to it.
When we started that, it was a very small town now too. But yeah, it's Mary and I sometimes wonder if God didn't give us the infertility problems that we had to encourage us to follow the path that we had discussed before, because it would have been a whole lot easier just to get pregnant and have a baby, in theory, because it would have been a lot cheaper. It's a whole lot less paperwork.
I believe it.
That's one thing we discovered, is apparently you don't do much paperwork. You just have a kid and leave the hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I think, that's one thing we up front always wanted people to know was we've chosen this path. These kids are chosen, just like if we had decided we're going to try and get pregnant. No, it's not a rescue. This is the family that we wanted.
That's awesome.
This is,
And I think that's so cool. And I just, because I always worry that that's the feeling that people have towards, those situations. And I kind of think that it's I don't know if it's the right way to feel about it. So, and I thought that was interesting that, Tobin brought that up too, about how Shannon felt and how she made sure people knew. So, so then talk to me a little bit about, kind of your guys' decision, because, I know, but people listening don't know, but your guys' decision, raising your children, keeping them home. Did you hear that? Yeah, okay. Raising children, deciding that you guys were going to keep them home and homeschool, all 4 of them. Because that's it for me and Kelsey, like we talked about earlier before we started recording. That's definitely a discussion that we're having. Right. I mean, I know it's 5 years away, but still something we're planning for logistically for our future, and it's a concern we have, because it's 8 hours or 7 hours out of the day with somebody else. It's a lot of time with somebody, and trusting in that wherever you're going to leave them or put them, or who you're going to entrust with that. So how did you guys come to the decision that for you homeschooling was the correct option?
Several things. One, that's just something that we kind of always felt like we wanted, either homeschool or private school. And at the time when we started having kids, private school wasn't really an option because financially we just couldn't afford that. It's not that we were totally against public school. I grew up going to public school. I think I turned out right.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's just that we saw things in such a way as how it seems that the public school system teaches to the middle, and those who excel are somewhat put to the side and forgotten, and those who are falling behind aren't really catered to like they need to be.
And that's like we were just talking about,
Yeah.
like how it's not so much about finding out, you know, what you're good at, but it's meeting a certain level of competency in everything,
Right.
and kind of being relatively the same across the board at all things.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what the goal. So once you've accomplished a certain level, you know, an A at math, okay, we don't need to worry about that kid anymore.
Yeah.
But if they've got a C in English, you know, then we need to, you know what I mean? Like, and instead, if you kept nurturing maybe that kid in his math, he may be, you know, the next Albert.
Yeah.
Or he may, you know what I mean? Like
or having the time to, and it comes down to the amount of time and the number of children those teachers are trying to accommodate.
Mm-hmm.
If someone has a different way of learning, there's not going to be someone who can focus on that and give them an alternative to that. That's one thing that was good for Mary and I in 10 years not having kids. We're observing others. We always observe others. We try to glean information from watching others. What works, what doesn't work, you know, just so you have a fighting chance.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
you're not just learning everything for the first time.
For sure.
We've talked about this before about why would you watch how someone's life goes like this because of choices they made and then say, oh, well, I'm going to try those same choices and hope for a different outcome. Well,
exactly.
No, if you're a good observer, you can watch choices people make and the outcomes of those choices and say, perhaps I shouldn't try it, you know.
That's 100% the truth. It's like not being so prideful to just learn from other people's mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, I forget the saying, but like a wise man is someone who learns from other people's mistakes, you know, versus, I can't remember the other part of it, but the other person, the smarter, intelligent person learns from their mistakes, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, that's like the whole reason why, like, I'm trying to, you know, I've created content with it, but more than anything, it's more selfishly for myself as a dad, being able to extract kind of the insights from other dads and other families that maybe aren't always, they don't always have the opportunity to discuss with other people. No one asks, no one, no one gets into that nitty gritty. But I think it's important because then it's going to help future families, future dads be able to inform their decisions about their family, about their kids, moving forward. So then, once you guys decided, homeschool was the way, can you somewhat talk kind of logistically and maybe a little bit more specific of, like, how did you guys arrange that, or what's the process involved in setting that up? I know Mary's she's in the day-to-day of it a lot more.
She is. It depends on the person. Like, had I been the one staying at home, the homeschool would have been run more like a regular classroom. Like, we would have had a specific curriculum. It probably would have been from the very same publisher, every single subject, We would have done everything that they had included in their curriculum package, and we would have started at like 8 o'clock in the morning and had a special break at this time. And, it was very regimented.
It would have been planned.
Yes, absolutely. Mary, not that she doesn't have a plan, but she's not so rigid.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for my kids, that's been really great because my kids are so different. And that's, that goes back to one of the things we just mentioned about looking at what happens in the public school system. What really influenced us, is watching. We had a nephew who had a sensory issue, and he was struggling, like in kindergarten, first grade, I believe. And then he got to another school and discovered that if they let him stand up to do some of his work, all of a sudden he could just excel.
Wow.
And when Grayson came home and started learning and stuff, and Mary started the preschool stuff, trying to see how he would do. We noticed in him that same kind of thing. Like, it was hard for him to sit and just study, but if we let him stand or move around a little bit, so
But see that, and that's like the flexibility.
Yeah.
The current school system does not allow for that.
Right.
Because you're trying to educate thousands of children at a time, and so, I mean, if anybody has any knowledge of like manufacturing and efficiency, you can't allow for a bunch of things out of spec.
Right.
There has to be a spec, and you have to ensure quality to that. And it's frustrating because like you said, like Grayson is super smart, super intelligent. Just put him in the right position to succeed, and he's good.
Exactly.
You know, versus if you were to take that same kid and put him in a public school system,
he would have been probably labeled a behavior problem.
Yes,
you know,
because he wouldn't have been able to sit still or focus or concentrate, and so. But and it's so funny that you bring that up, because I think that raises a bigger question that we have to, like, I think in the workplace and in school that has to be addressed more, is looking more at the environment that people are put in and less on the person.
Right.
Like, especially after now having Cal, like, I look at everybody and I think, like, if everybody starts like that, so innocent and happy and just like, you know, no ill will towards anyone, how can you ever assume when they become an adult they want to be, you know, whatever you think they are, mean, angry. Maybe it's the environment which they've put them in. Yeah, the box in which, instead of trying to figure out how you can fit them into the right job or the right environment or the right study habits, you know?
Yeah.
I think a lot about that too in college. You know, if you're somebody who doesn't, if you learn kinesthetically or if you learn via writing and reading, you're going to struggle in college because everything's lecture based. Yeah. If you can't learn through audio, you're going to have a really hard time, and you're going to spend a lot of extra time outside of the classroom reading a book or rewriting your notes, because everything right now in the college format is lecture based. So it really makes me think, like, and like I said earlier before we started recording, that's definitely, I'm sure as Cal grows, we're gonna see those tendencies, and I think that's probably, it's good that you bring those up right now, because that's probably gonna also affect our decision. Yeah. You know?
Well, and you know, you're a whole different generation too. So what's happening in the school system now, by the time he gets into school, might not be different. You know, maybe different. Yeah. And that's one thing Mary and I have always done too, is especially she, every year reevaluates how we're going to continue this. Are we going to continue homeschooling? You know, and she prays about it. She studies what's out there in curriculum, and she watches how the kids have done. And so far for us, the best option has been homeschooling.
That's awesome.
And like I said, because my kids learn so differently. And another thing that I love about the homeschool environment, it's kind of old-fashioned, but it goes back to the one-room schoolhouse kind of mentality. Our youngest, Israel, can do high school level math and English just from absorbing what was taught to the others, you know. So it's not that the public school system is horrible.
Yes.
It's just that I feel that the individual can't get
what they need out of it. Yeah, I completely agree, and I think too that's when that discussion's brought up, that's the way it's framed, is that somehow people are trying to attack the public school system or attack teachers in general, and I don't think we're trying to attack them, more of just trying to critique and maybe think about this is there a better way? Is there a way we can improve this? But I think now we're stuck where it's ballooned so big, it can't change on a dime like it needs to suit the needs of the way kids change and evolve on a daily, weekly, monthly, year-to-year basis. But in a one-room schoolhouse or a homeschool environment, you can be that flexible. You can. It's like a small business versus a large business. You know.
Yes.
So then the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is that you and Mary both are very strong in your faith, deep in your faith. You know, and even better, if anybody ever gets a chance to talk to you guys more in depth about it, you have a very unique approach to your faith. I think me and Kelsey, for sure, want Cal to grow up knowing Jesus Christ. We want to introduce him to our religion. How did you guys go about that process? I think it's something that in a lot of families, I don't know if it happens purposely. It kind of just inadvertently through discussions and conversations happens. But did you guys have a strategy as far as, you know, explaining your religion to your kids, explaining who your Savior was and why you guys believe what you do believe in, and then how did you try to continue to nurture their faith as they, become more independent and they start having their own
Yeah,
thoughts and
yeah.
they start thinking critically.
That's the key. It's about critical thinking as much as anything. We believe what we believe, and we have reasons we believe what we believe, and we just openly share it. I mean, it seems, I think probably to someone outside, it seems mystical or
Yeah.
ooky spooky or just weird, but we're very much more methodical than that. Not to say that there's not a deep spiritual connection, but God gave us a brain. He expects us to use it, and that coincides and works together with the heart. So you can't separate the two. And I think when you separate the two, it's when you get the real struggle. When you just have a set of rules that you're trying to follow, there's no real meaning. But I mean, why are you doing the rules? What's the purpose of the rules? For me, Christianity and my faith in Jesus Christ is not about rules. It's about a relationship with who I believe is my creator and my father, and the fact that I live my life in a to please him. It's just like I think any child-parent relationship should be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're not trying to gain favor exactly or get special privileges. You just want to do the things that you know that person likes because you love them and you want to serve them. And I think that if you develop that, that carries through in all aspects of your life. You know, not just with parent and child relationship, but with spousal relationships and just friendships. And, you know, there's got to be a give and take, and not necessarily always take, or you've got to follow my way, or I can't be associated with you. You know, and it's so ingrained in us. It's hard for me to explain how.
No. Because I see that. Like, I see that your guys' faith is even to the most, basic. Bye, cow. Bye,
See ya, buddy.
See you,
See
cow.
ya.
Love
You
you.
might need to check him.
Oh yeah? Was he going on?
He farted really big. He put him out here. He farted really big.
Dang it.
Yeah. We were like, did you hear that? I'm pretty sure it's on the recording. Love you. But it's so woven throughout your guys' life that it's like a lot of people talk about, like, I have my secular life, I have my spiritual life, right?
Yeah.
And it's like in the ideal sense, that's not the way it was supposed to.
Right.
You know,
it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, and
it's
so
supposed to be like this.
And very much that's how you guys are. So it is. It's hard for you to pull those pieces out because it is so woven. And the one thing that I think talking to Coach Schultz and even seeing how training you guys for all those years and hearing about how you guys handle your kids and the things that you guys face, you guys break it down to like just so practical. And I think I know for Kelsey and I, that's something. I know it's not always in the religious communities, relevance is something that gets talked about, and it's got some unfavorable people and not favorable people towards it. But I think for me and Kelsey, that's what we talk about. Like, how do we make our spirituality and our religion, our beliefs and our values that we get from our religion relevant to how we live our life on a daily basis, and weave that in. And I see Mary, and I hear her do that with your guys' kids, just constantly, all the time.
Yes.
Kindness, caring.
There are times.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like she reinforces it so well. Like,
Yeah.
Kids, we all grow up and we all have those petty moments and we all have those not so good character traits, and being able to break down what you believe and what you practice on a Sunday into how you behave on a Tuesday evening with your brother or your sister. I mean, I think that's the key.
Well, and you've got to keep that in your mind all the time. I mean, you're constantly, the whole purpose is just to constantly becoming more and more like that, more and more like Christ. That is our goal. The bar is up here. We just had this discussion with our kids the other day. They were just having some questionable behavior, not horrible. It's just like, okay, yeah, you could do that, but that's kind of down here. Your goal is this. Your goal is always this. You're not going to always hit that goal. Lots of times you'll never hit that goal, but you keep striving for that.
Yes, exactly.
You keep trying to enrich and better yourself.
That's what makes me think of just a secular conversation about that. related to football, Joe Montana used to talk about how Bill Walsh used to coach him that perfection on a pass is throwing the ball like 6 inches in front of the numbers, leading the receiver, right? And he would always explain that's not obtainable, that's not realistic, but we're always striving for that. And if we strive for that, we throw a pretty damn catchable ball.
Yeah.
And so and that's, I think that's where there's definitely a real world discussion that doesn't happen sometimes with your kids or even in, fellowships with people, that it's he set a high bar not to make us feel inferior or unattainable, but to constantly give it,
always improve.
That kind of whole Kaizen, continuous improvement mentality. And
here's what people get. I think a lot of people get disillusioned and frustrated is because they see that goal and they think that they're supposed to get there, and if they can't hit it, then lots of times they just give up.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, that says a lot about their character in general.
And we talk, that's a really good thing I talked about with my brother about. One of my favorite books is Mindset by Carol Dweck, and she talks about this. See you, babe. Bye, Cal. See you, Chloe. They talk a lot about she talks a lot about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so if you have a fixed mindset, you would look at that presentation of Christ as a confirmation of whether or not you're good or bad. Can you be like him? No? Okay, you must be a bad person. You'll never, versus if you're more growth minded, and you believe you can get better at everything and improve, you'd look at that and think, okay, that's the bar I'm reaching for. Right. And whenever I make a mistake, I can learn from it.
Right.
And I think that's as parents, you guys talking to me all over the years, you guys just do that so well, and you just do such a good job of reframing it for your kid in a way that's so constructive and not negative and not a criticism on who they are, but who they could be and who they were born to be and who God wishes them to be. And
you have to. One thing is you have to be willing to let your kids mess up, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt them. It's gonna hurt you. But the goal is to you messed up. Now what did you learn from that? What can you do next time to avoid that?
I think that's
everything is a learning opportunity.
Yes, and I think that's just that simple framework. It's just stop analyzing, stop sitting around thinking about, stop worrying about what's going to happen. Just do, reflect, and do again.
Yeah.
And don't worry so much about the outcome.
Right.
Don't worry so much about.
That's an easier lesson for some.
It is.
It's a hard one for me.
Yeah,
I still struggle because I don't like to fail.
And I think particularly less so. I don't like to fail either, but even more so, I have that feeling towards people I love, people I care about, where I want to save them from that potential negative outcome.
Yeah.
And even I get that feeling in my current job, I have a boss who's very particular about things, and so he's constantly trying to, instead of letting you do it and come to the conclusion he probably already arrived at, instead of letting you learn, have that opportunity to learn, he tries to save you from the negative outcome. You never really learn anything.
Right.
You're just constantly
you just learn what he knows to get to there.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of always just you don't really ever own anything.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's really sometimes how you come to own a lesson or own a circumstance, is through the experience of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that there's definitely a balance there, with what we talked about earlier, where yes, you want to stand on the shoulder of giants, but also you want to also have some of your own experiences to correlate there. So yes, learn from others, but also do and learn from your own thing.
Yeah.
It's very but getting back more to specific about you and your kids is you guys have 4 kids, like you said. You're 18 to 12. Super busy. You work, Mr. CFO. Mary is at home doing the homeschool and all that. How do you and Mary approach maintaining your relationship? I think for Kelsey and I I've spoken with couples that feel there's like two kinds of camps. They're not really opposing camps. They're just two different thoughts. And one thought is, the relationship, while it's important, the kids are more important. So, if we need to sacrifice the thing between us to make sure that they're taken care of, then that's what we do. I think me and Kelsey are more on the kind of the other side or a different side where we feel that the more on point we are together, the more dialed in and glued in we are together, the better we serve other people, the better we can take care of Cal. So like making a priority that we maintain that relationship, because it's very easy when your life's super busy, it can be the relationship that you fall back on the foundation that it was built on instead of continuing to improve it and work on it and maintain it.
Yeah, and that's where the foundation is key, because our foundation first is our relationship with Christ for each of us. And if that isn't put together, then our relationship with each other is going to be off. So it's constantly trying to make yourself aware and encourage that relationship. And then next in our feeling is the relationship between each other, she and I. Our relationship is more important than the relationship with the kids, simply because if we don't have that together, those kids are going to know that. They're going to sense it. Things are going to get wacky. But if we are strong and we're a united force, it's just going to flow over into our relationship with the kids.
So from your perspective, how do you encourage your relationship with God? How do you maintain, or how do you work on that and make time for that throughout your week or your month? And how do you then, second to that, how do you then focus on your relationship with Mary and your relationship with her?
Like all things for me, it's like through phases, which is one of the things I'm always striving to change. I'm best when I have a devoted prayer time, a prayer life, a reading time of scripture. I'm best when I do that. I am not always the best at that.
Which is like what we talked about, right?
Yes.
Like it's okay, right?
It's okay, but to recognize that, at some point you have to say, okay, wait a minute, and you've got to get clicked back into that, because I have a tendency to get on these crazy tracks in my mind. I have a mind that never shuts down. And so for me, we were just talking about this at group last night. Working out was one of the best things, because the physical exertion allowed me the escape for everything to kind of clear out.
You get out of your mind and more into your body.
Yes.
Like you're more centered in the moment, in the present, and
after that, then I can easily roll into prayer time. I can roll into devotion time. I can relay that into just communication time, with Christ, and just thinking about my relationship with Him. And then I can focus on my wife some more. But if I don't get this cleared out, nothing gets in, and I've been going through that lately, My wife the other night, she's like, what is going on? I just can't tell you whatever's in my head, it's just so much. And I was just like mentally exhausted. It's like a mental exhaustion, because it just never shuts down.
Do you find that also allows you to, if it, for I think for, like you said, for physical activity, physical exercise, that's definitely part of it for me.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that time, that ability to kind of find a center, so to speak, and kind of get things organized and cleared out and get the clutter away, allows you to interact with your children better?
Yes.
Interact with them more presently, more
Absolutely,
aware.
because if I don't do that, no one gets in, and they often think I'm mad, why are you so mad? I'm not. I just get quiet, because there's so much going on
happening that the external is too much.
It's too much.
There's already too much happening that there's no space for this.
Right. It's like being in the middle of a freeway inside my brain, and then trying to hear somebody yelling from the side. It just doesn't get in. Mary's not that way. We just talked about this last night, because several of us were talking about how it's difficult for us to get to a spot to be able to hear the Spirit, because there's so much going on. But Mary's like, no, it's not. All you have to do is just open up and receive the Spirit. He's always talking to you. There's always communication. You just have to receive it. So I think that's a bit of a personality issue,
Well, I don't think it's a personality issue. I think it's just a difference, because like I feel that from Mary when I'm around her. Like she is just so
on.
She's just so present. Yes, so like when she is talking to you, she's talking to you. Yes. She is not worried about getting out the door. She is not worried about what she has to do next.
Right.
She's not checking the list in her mind or reviewing her schedule mentally or what time it is or how many, I can just feel that in her. And my Kelsey is like that as well. She is just very like, when she is there with you, she is with you.
She's just present.
And I'm like you, like I'm the exact opposite where like if I am having a conversation with somebody, I am looking at the clock, factoring in the next thing I have on my schedule, how much time I'm going to need to wrap this up, do whatever I need to get ready, get out the door, and get to the next thing.
Right.
Versus, if I can really, like you said, if I can have that moment, like for me in the last year, it's been experimenting or practicing some kind of mindfulness in the morning. Getting up a little bit earlier than I need to, like just having an extra 15 minutes so I'm not feeling rushed. Any of those things lets me do that, like lets me be on and lets me be present and not be so closed and worried about what I need to do next and what I need to get to make my day good or to make my day on point. And then but if I am like that, like you said, if I am like this, I can't be open to what there is to offer, to be offered to me, or what I might be able to offer somebody else.
You're just shut down. It's just shut down. It's almost like a protective mode, and you don't even mean to.
Having, in particular, and Kelsey and I have always, like, since we started dating, that's always something that it's always something that we've had to be aware of, and something I've had to especially be aware of, because as we talked about the love languages before, hers is quality time. So if I may make an hour or a couple hours to hang out with her, right, and that's fine. But if I'm not there, it's not. She feels it. It doesn't count. Yeah, exactly. So that's been definitely something for us that we've had to practice. But now even so much more with Cal.
Yeah.
Like understanding, like he has just brought that so much more to the front of my mind, where it's like he's only gonna, like we talked about, he's gonna grow so fast.
Yes.
He's only gonna be this little, like for a little while.
Yep.
And if I'm holding him, worried about the next thing on my schedule or what I've got to do next, I'm going to completely miss the moment of holding my son.
Yeah. That's why it's so great. Well, when you had him out here, I was just holding him, and I was so relaxed because for that moment in time,
it like centers you.
I was just focused on him and his smile,
Yeah. So that's important. Well, I mean, I think that's definitely something we can agree on.
Yeah, and you have to remember too, you have to give yourself some grace, because you're gonna mess up, and you're just gonna need someone to smack you back into reality.
Which is why, like, it, telling us about the conversation with Mary last night, like that's that's why you should have that person.
Yes.
Because they check you, like Brian.
Yes.
What is going on?
Yes.
Right?
And it's funny, you and I have talked about this before, and we talked about at group last night, some of us, that isn't it funny how those different personalities are brought together to balance each other out.
So true. So true.
Because it's true with you and Kelsey, it's true with Mary and I, it's true with a couple other friends of ours. It's just...
It's very true. Completely true.
Yeah.
And like your point about, this is an interesting point, because me and my brother talk about this a lot. But I want to get, your perspective from someone who's, one, like super, super deep in their space spiritually, but also you guys like intellectually about your faith, like whole nother level. How does, when you talk about giving yourself grace, how does God's love and his father-son relationship with you affect how you behave and act as a father towards your children, and you think about how you're supposed to treat them, and how does the relationship God models for you, how does that inform the relationship you try to live out with your own kids?
Well, because earlier I said that is my goal, and it's a hard one for me to get to, but I always have to do that. I just have to bring myself back to and examine what is it that I think that relationship is. And for me, it's a love that I just can't comprehend. I struggle with grace, understanding it, and being able to accept it for myself. But I try my best to extend it to others. But it's hard. As someone who doesn't really get it, my wife gets grace like you wouldn't believe. She's always like, why is it so hard? God loves you this much. It's just there. That's not I don't know if it's the way I was raised so much as the whole, almost a checklist kind of thing, you know? It's
No, I completely agree. And I think having a son has given me more insight
Yeah. Oh yeah.
than
Yes.
anything else, I think. Because like you just said, so many other relationships are, and I really now understand my relationship with my mother a lot more because of now having a kid. But so many more of your relationships in life are so conditional. They are a checklist.
Yeah.
Behave this way, do this certain thing, and you have my favor, and you have my love, and you're my friend. And if you don't check all those boxes, then it's not really the case.
Yeah.
Versus like,
It's just there.
yeah, and that's like for Cal, like it doesn't matter what he does, who he becomes, he will always have my favor and love. It will not. It
won't go away.
It won't go away.
And it's weird. I don't know if it's hard for you, but for me, it feels like a struggle to convince my kids of that. I feel that. I get it.
It was forever. That's like something my mom, like that's always been like one of her reinforcing messages. Like, I love you. You're always mine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. You'll always be my baby.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you go or who you are. But forever, like even into adulthood, I always felt like that wasn't necessary. Like I want to believe her, but at the same time, in my back pocket, I'm like, well, if I dropped out of college, would she feel the same way? Or if I ran off and decided to be a hobo and ride the rails, which you know what I mean? Like if I made these big, huge, drastic decisions that go completely against her values, would she still feel that way?
Yeah.
And now, like having a son, I kind of like now I kind of get it a little bit more. It's hard to put into words.
It's what we tell our kids all the time. The love that we have for you is never going to go away. We might not like some of the choices you make or some of the behaviors that you exhibit, but that is not going to negate the love that we have for you, which is, until I had kids, was something I really didn't get. I just didn't.
I completely.
But now it is. It's like, my kid, I don't know what they could do to make me not love them. Even in the worst of their despair, there's just going to be something in me that wants to just help them and take care of them and love them through it. So
I feel like that's that's what me and my brother talk about so much, is that relationship that exists between you and God. If that's your belief system, that's the relationship that should inform all of your others.
Yeah.
And I feel like personally, the biggest things I get, or I feel from that relationship, from the top to me, is the like love and the grace. That kind of like constant proudness and grace and forgiveness and love, but then also the ability to like turn that into something constructive and turn it into something like where it's like, because I love you this much, I'm going to ask you to do these things.
Exactly. That's the other thing. You can't take. There's like this weird school. There's the school of these are the rules you got to do, and then you'll get favor. Or there's so much grace you can do whatever you want to. And everything. Not really. It's just like anything else. We set rules and boundaries for our kids because we love them, because we want them to learn what's best for them, and there are going to be natural consequences for going outside those boundaries.
And I think the grace comes into that for me as a person. I think the grace comes in understanding that I know you're gonna fail. Like I know you're gonna
screw up.
Yeah, and
but guess what?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I still love you.
Yes,
you can redeem yourself.
Yes, exactly. It's like that's where that comes into the instead of, which is like a lot of interactions with people so much today, and that's why there's this much more cynical attitude towards everybody uses the term people. Like I don't like people. I don't want to be around people. There isn't grace. It's always like, aha, you are imperfect. You are a failure. Ha ha ha. Like
it's like they're trying to.
And that's where it's kind of like you don't want to open up, and you don't want to be vulnerable, and you don't want to be authentic, and but if you would allow that relationship to inform how you interact with people and your children more, I think we'd have a lot closer, more intimate friendships. And
I also think that people in general wouldn't be so apt to try and inflict pain.
Yes, exactly.
On
Yes,
others.
exactly.
It's almost like if you're feeling I don't know, hurt or something, that you want to get back at somebody, and it doesn't matter who it is. It's just somebody.
Yeah,
it could be the next person that walks by. So it's like I said, it's not like a state that you reach and you're just there. It's a constant.
Evolution.
Every day,
changing, learning. Yeah.
And some days I screw up really, really badly, but tomorrow's another day, and I can try it again.
Yes.
And one of the best things for me, which we've talked about this too over the years, because I'm the type of person that likes to close in, but it's not good for me. It's not good for God. Didn't intend it for us to be that way, and sometimes I have to force myself to be in a group so that I can share myself with others, and so they can share themselves with me, and it completely changes my mindset and the way that I'm feeling just by being in the presence of others and listening to them.
Yep.
Yep. And it's easy to lose track of that because I can get so turned inside of my own self that I forget that all it takes is just 10 minutes of sitting down and chatting with somebody.
Exactly. And I think that's just, I don't know why I know it's not as difficult for everyone as it is for certain people, but I think for a lot of people, I think my experience in a corporate setting has definitely opened my eyes up to the fact that we have put so many layers and dressed up humanity so much that it's almost like we're trying to hide the fact that at the end of the day, we are human beings, and we all have these insecurities and these flaws and these problems, and that in any setting, you can reach out and find that in somebody. And it's just taking off those layers that we put on to try to dress it up and getting back down to that.
Just be real.
Just being real. I mean, it sounds so like new age and hippie, but
it's really not.
It's not. It's just it's like we've like by trying to put a suit and tie on everybody and use a formal language.
To me, you know what that is, Stephen? It's man's attempt to change behavior over the years instead of letting the Spirit of Christ be what it is. It's just man's interference with that. And really, Mary and I joked about this. Jesus was like the biggest hippie ever. I mean, to us, I mean, he hung out with the prostitutes and the people who no one wanted to be around. And it's not that he engaged in that behavior, but he was just there, chit-chatting with them.
Yep.
How's your life going?
Yep. There's just not enough of that. Like there's a lot of it's like there's small talk, but it's like it's not. It's like hard to say it's not meaningful.
It's not. Well, it's not though. It's weather talk.
Yes, exactly. It's not like actually. Hey, how are things with you? And then my intention behind that is I really care to know.
Right. And I think the reason people don't believe or open up to that is that they don't believe that's genuine.
I completely agree.
It's hard. I think it's hard for people to believe that even exists.
I completely agree, and I think that goes to speak to the fact that if you want to really connect with others, it's probably harder now today because there is a pervasive sense of you really don't care. And if you're in a position where you really want people to think that you care, you're gonna have to go out of your way, and you're gonna have to be vulnerable, and you're gonna have to open up, because until you do that, no one is gonna care what you. I mean, you could ask them how they're doing all day long, but
they're not gonna tell you.
They're not gonna tell you. They're fine, whatever. Move on. Go ask the next guy how he's doing.
And it's funny. What is it that we're so afraid of?
I don't.
I think it's the judgment of others.
It is. Oh yeah.
And why do we care?
100%.
Why do we really care? I mean, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know either, but I honestly think that's part of it, and I think part of it's too probably the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So I think a lot of people experience interactions that are negative again and again and again and again, and so they've gotten to the point now where that is their default assumption. That when you ask them a question like that, it's well, you're just doing it to be polite.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
When really they're struggling with their spouse at home, or their kids misbehaving, or their grandma's in the hospital dying, or all these things that are all going on with people that just 90% of the people surrounding that person are oblivious
to what's happening. Yeah.
Yet those are the very things in life that matter more than anything else that's happening on the planet at that moment.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and then yet we can't understand why people aren't engaged in their jobs or not motivated to do something, you know? And so I think that's, I just think that's like, you're really going to have to, and I think it starts like one person at a time. I think it starts with one person deciding, you know, when I ask somebody how you're doing, I'm really going to actually sit and listen and not keep walking or turn my body like I need to leave the room.
Yeah.
I remember my wife, and like I told you, Kelsey, she's, you know, if she asks you how you're doing, she's like in, like tell her about your last 6 months of your life, and she will listen.
Yeah.
And she will react, and she will, you know, share your empathy, and she will, and she's just good at that, and she just has this gift to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, you know, the second gym I worked at, our boss, one of our bosses, would always kind of walk in for the day and be like, "How are things going?" And like Kelsey would begin to like tell her, like thinking, "Oh, this person cares like I do," and that person would kind of be like,
"Yeah, it's kind of like, how are things going?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And she would start to like fade away, and I remember my wife would just get so pissed and so irritated and upset, and just feel so like not hurt, but like fine, I'm not gonna try that again.
Right.
You know.
So the next time she comes in, how are you doing? Fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, like bringing that back, and like I said, bringing that back to like our kids is, I think that starts, like that's how we can start to really have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, one, that's how we interact with them and model that for them, and so that when they go interact with other people, they can do that in their relationships.
Right. And then when they develop a relationship, start a family, then they can teach that.
Yeah.
know?
So it's kind of like, you know, that outgrowth.
Yeah.
My mom I know struggles a lot because she feels like she missed out on a lot of opportunities, or felt like she passed on big important things because she decided to have 3 kids and raise a family, and she devoted her life and most of her efforts as a you know, young adult and a middle-aged adult to that.
Right.
And I think a lot of times she feels like, what do I have to show for it? And I'm like, you know, like,
here's what
exactly. I said, like, I know you think that your impact was so small or so tiny, but really when you really look at it, like you have a son, you have 2 sons and a daughter, and look at all the relationships they have, look at all the people they've impacted, like,
right.
You know,
are they touching it?
Yes, exactly. And I think as a parent, I think that's what has to, some days when you're slogging and you feel like you're just kind of just grinding, you have to remember, like, there is a huge
changing that you don't even know.
Exactly. There is something really important about the fact that you stop and correct your son to go say hi to the person they didn't say hi to. That matters.
Yeah.
Like, you think it doesn't. You think it's so minuscule. Like, why fight that battle?
Right.
But it will matter someday, and it could matter to somebody that really needed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mary has, over the years, homeschooling, has had times where she's like, I can't believe I got an honors degree to do this. And I'm like, and I always try to tell her, and I mean it. I meant it, and I do mean it. I can't think of a more important job for her to have. She's changing the lives of at least 4 people every single day. I mean, what she does in the classroom, at home, all day long with those kids is going to affect the next generations.
Completely.
You know, I mean, when my sons and my daughter get spouses and start families, they're going to be influenced by what they learned, and they're going to therefore influence others. So
and also, like, you always, I remember you would always kind of take it back to this whenever I felt that way, is you would always say, you know, at the end of the day too, you know, because of my beliefs, at the end of the day too, my God is happy because of how I behave. Because, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, I do these things while I'm looking for personal fulfillment, contentment from them. I also have to get that from the fact that I'm serving something more. I'm
right where you're at.
Yes, exactly.
I was talking to someone recently about we have acquaintances who have graduated from like Bible college, and they don't necessarily get into the professional ministry, and they start feeling like they're failures or they're not, getting up to what they need to get up to. And I'm always like, no, just because you have a degree from a Bible college doesn't mean the only way you can influence people is by preaching at a church or something. Why not just every day where you're at, be that person and serve where you're at? You can.
But that goes back to the fact that when you're so closed off and so locked in on what you need to do next, you can't let all that in. You can't let those opportunities.
You don't understand.
You can't see them because you're so. It's like when you go looking for something and you're 100% certain what it looks like and what color it is, and your brain's just so primed for that thing. And then you realize you've got the wrong color, and so it could be sitting right in front of you, and you can't. Your brain is so primed looking for this one thing.
How many times have we done that when we go to a drawer looking for a particular shirt? You can't see it, and Mary, where's my shirt? Right there.
Yep.
Literally right in front of you.
Versus if you just go in there with fresh eyes, and just you're just open, all of a sudden it's right there. Okay.
You have the ability to serve every single day just in the spot that you are.
And that's
and like I said, there's been times in my life when I thought, oh man, I wish I would have gone out or done something. But the truth is, I can influence and have an effect on as many people's lives right where I'm at as I could have if I'd moved to New York City. Probably more so because likely I would have not been married to Mary, and I would have been my little reclusive self.
I completely agree.
It goes back to grace. We got to give ourselves grace and realize that we can serve and do. And
turning those ambitions that we have from being so
critical.
Yeah, and so big. Like I want to change the world.
Yeah.
But really, your ability to change the world exists like right within the 5 people you're closest to.
Right, and you know what? Sometimes it takes a lifetime to step back and then really look back. Did I change anything? Did I influence anyone in any way? Mary's parents previously, expressed that I don't know if we really. They had 80-some kids come through their home. Somewhere through the line, someone was influenced by that. Mary herself and her brothers have been influenced by that.
Oh yeah.
And they've influenced the families they're making now. So therefore, like our parents who came before us have experienced the way that we're doing with our children. And when our children go out, it just carries through.
And I try to have my biggest thing is I try to hold on to some faith in the sense that I think it clicked for me. I was watching a video of Steve Jobs give a commencement speech, and he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. Mm-hmm. So I have some faith that, like, for example, like the job I'm doing now, I have no freaking idea how that fits in to like my long-term vision for myself or my family. But I have to have faith that somewhere 40 years down the line, looking back, that dot's going to make sense, it's going to connect.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it's something simple as it provided you the opportunity for your wife to be able to stay home.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes it's not a big grand experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just
that it afforded you whatever opportunity or afforded. Yeah. I completely agree.
And that goes back to your your journal of gratitude kind of thing. Sometimes we miss the simple things, like you said, that are right in front of us.
And it is like and I think that's why gratitude has gotten so much praise recently, and so many people are trying to find a way to feel grateful and focus on gratitude, because I think that's an emotion that really does bring you back home. It really does focus you on the things. Okay, be grateful and happy for where you are now and what your abilities are now, and stop being so focused on where you could have been or what you should be doing or where you should be at.
Or what you think.
What you think. In your mind. Exactly. 100%. So, another question I always ask people I interview, especially, dads, is I think it's important there's a legacy component. So, what are the values or the principles that you hope to try to share with your kids or instill in them that they carry on? Kind of that idea of I can impact them and give them something that they can then use to impact others, and that'll inform their life and their decisions and their relationships.
Well, I think really what I would most like my kids to gain is just a true compassion and love for others, and to look outside themselves for opportunities to serve. Really, I would be happy with that.
That's awesome.
I just don't want them to be so self-focused. And it's something that we all struggle with all the time. Is to get outside ourselves, to look outward, and to see where can I step in and serve someone else.
Mm-hmm. And that makes me think of something that Tony Robbins talks about, is that suffering starts when you start focusing on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when I heard him say that, and now I hear you say it, it's just so much the truth. Like if you will stop focusing so much on what you need and what your problems are and where you need to be at, and start thinking, how can I serve and help others? All of a sudden, all the negativity and all the just negative feeling, the down feeling you have, it washes away.
Quietly dissipates.
Yeah, it does. It builds, and you feel like the more you focus on yourself, it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds.
Yes.
So that's. And I think your kids are getting that 100%.
You try.
Guys, and you and Barry model it. Like yes, you guys could speak it like 100 times a day, every day, right? But what's so much more valuable is your guys' actions really give your guys' words.
I think that's true.
Power.
Most things. It's easy to say something and just put it out there. It's a lot harder to model that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the people observing, if they're observers, like we discussed earlier, they're going to see the actions more than they're going to hear the word.
No doubt. And I know your kids have to. I mean, the amount of time, which I think is our most valuable and inordinate resource, the amount of time that you, Mary, both together or separately, are willing to just share with people. Like, you want to sit down and talk with us? Fine, we'll sit down and talk for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, as long as you want to talk. Like, there's just so... It may seem so small to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people would think, oh, that's not that big a deal. But in reality, it is. Like, as busy as you guys are, and as much as you have going on, to find the time to counsel a younger couple, or to...
Well, you know what? It's because from experience, we know how... even now, like, I know how important that is for me. I forget it sometimes, but just to sit down with somebody and chat for a while, it's like a release valve, just... Let's all the nonsense go away, and you focus on someone else for a little bit,
I completely agree.
In a way, it's almost self-serving.
It is. It's funny how that works. Like it's if nothing else, like right, like if you say somebody is kind of skeptical about Christianity and God, and that's not their thing, or maybe they haven't arrived there yet to that conclusion yet. Even if you don't believe in all that, right? If you want to feel good and be happy and you serve others, even if you like that in and of itself could be the most self-serving thing you could do.
That's true. But from my perspective too, when people aren't of my faith and they do that and experience that, I firmly believe that they're experiencing the same faith that I have. They just don't know that. They just don't know that, and they're so afraid to allow themselves to consider that they just keep that separate. But I really think that that's just God created us in a way that we're designed to serve others, I believe. And
I see so much of Christianity and so many of the secular things because I am very fascinated by positive psychology and the secular kind of studies of these things. Like, I like reading about them, I like learning about them. But so much of it, so many of the times, and I tell Lane all this all the time, every time I read something, I think, this is so much what Jesus was saying long before they said it. It's like these people arrived at the same conclusions, and to me that tells me there's a truth. Yeah. There is a universal
I used to tell a friend of mine all the time who wasn't a believer that the truth is the truth.
Yes.
It's out there. Whether you want to believe it's the truth or not, the truth exists.
I am more confident of that now than ever before, because everything I read so much stuff, and I think you're like the way you're saying it is awesome. It's so engaging. It's great, and I think God put you on this earth to say it in that way to reach a whole group of people that maybe couldn't have been reached with a different message. And so I think, but again, I come back to this thing and say, what you're saying completely aligns with what I already believe. Like what you're saying is while the way you're saying it may be revolutionary, it's not all that revolutionary anyway.
It's always been there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I keep being like, man, these people come to the same conclusions. Mm-hmm. You should love others, be authentic, talk to each other, serve one another. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like I keep coming back to that point. And I'm like, I believe that more than anything, that while so much of the world believes that everything is so relative, I'm more confident there are truths to the world about humanity, and you will stumble upon them yourself along the way.
If you're one who's searching for it.
Yeah, if you're searching for it. Yeah, if you're looking for it, I can completely agree. Yeah. And then the last question I typically kind of ask everybody I interview is something that like really is kind of at the forefront of my mind a lot of the times, is the fact that time is so limited. Mm-hmm. And at some point, tomorrow, a year from now, 40 years from now, 50 years from now, I have no idea how much time I have, but it's limited. That's the one thing I know. And I know I'll never get more of it. And so where I spend it, how I spend it, who I spend it with is just it's so important. It's more important than anything else. More important how much money I can make, more important. And I know like the urgency of life sometimes makes us forget that.
Yes.
It makes us forget that, but it just is. And I think that it comes from two places. It comes from one, from the like age of 18 to like even today, most of my time has been spent with people that are 1.5, 2 times, 2.5 times my age. Mm-hmm. So it's like they are in the middle of their life. And hearing them talk about what they wish they would have done, or how they should have done it, or what they wish they would have focused on more. And then the other part of it is working at an ER for 3 years and seeing that, one, anyone can die at any time, at any moment, from the simplest things like obesity. You can go to work one day, and that's the end of the day, and that's the end of their life. Yeah. Seeing that, whether you're a CEO or a stay-at-home mom or any of these things, at the end of the day, when you're dying, you die in the same way, you die in the same place. So, and knowing that at the end of that day, all you're really going to care about is your loved ones, and the people you love, and how much time you spend with them. You're not going to care that you worked at the office longer, or you made more money, or you bought a bigger house. It just all falls away.
It does.
And so, for me, that mortality really makes me think critically about how I spend my days, and it also makes me jump and make decisions about things that I would otherwise put off or be afraid to do. Right. So, my question is, what do you want your kids when you're gone? Like, what do you want that legacy to be? What do you want them to look back on and think about Brian and think about their dad?
I know I'd like them to believe is I would like them to know that I loved them beyond measure, and that they were the most important part of my life, other than my wife and Christ. That is something that I struggle modeling, just because of my nature. It's a battle that I have constantly to stop work, because I love to work. I love it.
And you're good at it.
Well,
which makes it even more difficult, because I was having a conversation with a friend about this, that sometimes when you have a really strong work ethic and you can perform at a high level, you have to start looking at it and questioning, am I working awesome because I'm good at working awesome, or am I working awesome because I'm trying to achieve something, or I'm going after something, or it's contributing something, or am I just doing it for the sake that I'm good at it and it's reinforcing and I kick ass at it?
I'm just the type of person who sees a task at hand needs to be taken care of and I just want to do it. And the problem is that I have tunnel vision when I get into that mode. And we've talked about this. I don't even eat sometimes. It's not that I think, oh, I'll do it later. It's I literally am so into that moment that I don't feel hunger. And I would love to experience that in other ways in my life, in other areas. And that's what I would like my kids to see, is an intense love for them, And I try to exhibit that when I'm at home with them, and I think sometimes they get kind of sick of the whole lovey-dovey stuff. Yeah. But I just want them to know that, because that's something that I know my dad loved me. He was kind of the same way, that once he got home, he was somewhat distant. He wasn't involved in interacting with me, and I try to exhibit that differently with them. Because for me, that would have demonstrated more to me how much he loved me than him saying it. So I try to do, it probably seems silly, little things like I'll grab one and go get coffee. Or, I'll take Sophie and she and I'll go to the mall and go shopping. Another example is the first time she wanted to get her ears pierced, I went with her and we got our ears pierced together. Just, that's the kind of things that I would like them to remember. It's just that he loved me so much that he would take the time to focus on me and just do something silly with me that meant something to me.
And for me, where I am at, that's really impactful of an answer, and it aligns with a lot of other people I've spoken with, because there are times when I think, oh, I'll just spend another hour doing this, or I'll spend another 2 hours doing that. And then I think, I bet it would mean more, and I bet it would have a greater impact at the end of my days to go spend an hour watching TV next to my wife.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like that's not productive and that's not contributing to moving forward and I'm not getting better, but at the end of the day, I guarantee you, she will remember that, and that will have a greater impact on her and our kids or whoever than whatever video I want to make next, or whatever thing I want to write about or read about or learn or do. And so it is. It's a constant daily thing, putting that at the top of the list and trying to keep it at the top of the list.
It's hard. It's easy for things to slip in and take that time away.
And I think that's why everyone's like, Steven, you're just so morbid. But I think, and that's why my mom.
I don't think it's. I think it's wise.
I know, and my mom's always like, Steven, that's so not depressing, but so it's so not.
It's realistic.
And for me, I find it inspiring. Mm-hmm. I find it in the face of death, everything falls away, and that makes me jump. When it's 5 o'clock and there's 2 more tasks to do at work, I jump and I leave because I know that those tasks will be there tomorrow, and my kid may not be.
Right.
You know what I mean? All those things are so uncertain that I'm gonna, in the face of the uncertainty and in the face of the possibility of death, I'm gonna put the number one priority at the number one priority.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been the one thing that allows me to do that. It allows me to motivate me enough to make that decision. And then statistically, am I gonna wake up tomorrow? Yes. More than likely, no, I'm not gonna meet my end. Right. But at the same time,
the truth is, you just never know.
I just don't know. So.
And that's one thing I've missed with when we were together so much working out is you fed me that kind of thing, because I so easily lose track of that when I see you write that or something, it's like, he's right. He's right.
And it's and a lot of times, and it's turned more cliche with the whole, you only live once, and live your day like it's your last, blah, 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 blah. But I don't think it means, Mary's calling us.
Sorry.
No, you're good. We're almost done anyway.
Knock, knock.
Did she call you a bunch?
Yeah. Texted and called.
Oh shit. Well, we kind of gone over on time.
Yeah, I'll call her real quick.
She gonna be on you.
Lord. Kid juggling. Hagen needs to be Hagen, which is needs to be picked up. Sophie's got to be picked up. Hey, you. Sorry. What time is it right now?
10:30.
Yeah, I can pick him up. Pick up Sophie first or Hagen. Okay. Okay. Not. Okay. Leonard, not Leonard. Okay. Leonard. Right. Okay. Okay. I can do it. All right. Bye.
That's awesome.
11 and 12. I got to pick up the kids.
All right, good deal. Well, I mean, that's pretty much, those are pretty much all the questions I usually ask everyone. So, I just appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, I think time's the most valuable thing, like we just talked about, for that reason. So taking like an hour, 2 hours to come and talk, that's awesome. I appreciate it a lot. And hopefully, having this on record and putting it out there, somewhere down the line, someone will get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, maybe me. I'll replay it and remind myself.
I definitely get value out of it, and also, in like long-term vision, I'm hoping that 25 years from now, regardless of where we're at, it'll be a sort of a head fake for my son to be able to look back and see that, his dad was willing to invest time and energy into learning to be his dad, and I hope that informs how he handles his relationship and his responsibilities.
I think it's a great idea.
So I appreciate it. I'll take the time, and we'll stop it right there. Hey guys, I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Brian. Again, sorry that there was no film and no footage, but I hope you really enjoyed the audio and the conversation. I felt like it was very valuable, well worth your time. I'll make sure and get the film right on that next episode and on the next time we have Brian on. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this. I hope that if you're a dad or you're soon to be dad, you're getting value out of it. And I love hearing from you guys that you are. So please share your feedback, comment below. And then if you are enjoying it and you want to continue to support the episodes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with your friends and family, share it with other dads. And then I'll be back with more episodes. So until then, I hope you guys are having a great day and have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.